Happy birthday.
Is live.
Yeah. By the way, we're live in
Happy
40
birthday to
seconds in.
BLOC.
So, welcome everyone. This is the launch of the BLOC, which is the Blockchain Leadership Oversight Council. And we're insanely happy that all of you are here to join us today for this event that is going to hopefully fundamentally change the blockchain space and bring a lot of feelings of safety, feelings of trust, and so forth. But before we get into a little bit about what the BLOC is, I want to introduce you to the people that have helped to create it and these great projects that are before you. And so I want to hand it off first to Patrick, that is the chair, and give him some opportunities to speak. And before I hand it over though, if during this time you have questions, this is an AMA. We will get started with a little bit of words from each of the projects first, just to give time for those questions to come in. Now, I can't speak, I'm too nervous. If you are entering questions and I do not see it, please do not spam the chat. I will go in the order that they're received. I'm receiving stuff from Twitter, from YouTube, from all over. So please bear with me as I'm trying to get all of those questions to get answered. There's going to be a lot to get through today, I'm pretty sure. And if I don't get to it today, we'll try to make sure that we get to it another time. And if you, of course, are watching this in the future, make sure to put a comment below, and we will try to make sure that all of your questions are answered as well. But Patrick, I'm going to hand it off to you. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much, JT. And I'm honored to be here today with a group of really transparent and great founders who have been a part of building this for almost a year now. We started back in February. So right after Reaper Financial launched in December of 2021, we started looking for how do we do things right? How do we align to what the SEC is going to ask from us, and how do we do the things that would eventually come down on us as regulation. And really the problem was it doesn't exist, and the SEC, being a centralized and unelected authority, was never really fit to regulate a decentralized economy. So while I was actually interviewing John Deedon, the man himself, is when I initially had this idea about building out a standards organization where we would self-regulate on the blockchain and do things in a way that made sense without it being an authoritative, forced position that other projects would have to follow. So we started developing this way back in February. And with that, it's really taken on a life of its own. And we authored a full constitution and bylaws, code of conduct and values of what right looks like. And more importantly, how we can actually protect investors in ways that none of the regulatory authorities and none of the government agencies are doing. And that's what we're all about. So I'm going to pass it off to James Ray from Schmeckles so he can tell you his part in all this.
Definitely. So thank you, Patrick. If you guys don't know, it's not just the States, it's not just America, it's most countries around the world are having a lot of trouble with regulating cryptocurrency. A lot of governments struggle to even understand what it is. So as an example, in Australia, we do have a set of regulations, but we don't have a regulatory body who governs crypto. So it's sort of just a free space. So with the BLOC, we can set up a set of regulations that are not an expectation of projects, but more so a grail that they can reach for, right? Like, this is what we would like to see as a standard across the board. This is how we would like to see governments start to regulate cryptocurrency, not via backroom deals where they then take people to court, for example, like what we've seen happen with Ripple. But more so, here is a set of expectations, a set of what we believe to be a healthy standard in this ecosystem that we believe projects should be striving for. Most of us are from projects of ourselves where we have trialed and tested these systems, these processes. so we can also then help others to reach this. And it's a group of great people here. Like Patrick said, we've been working together since February. It's been a long time. It's been a lot of work, a lot of conversations. We've been meeting weekly. A lot of these guys are doing 2 meetings per week. So we're very excited for moving forward. So my personal position in the board of BLOC is the ethical officer. So I will help to keep the team, the BLOC's board, as above board as possible. So I'll take reports from the public, I'll take reports from the internal team, and I'll investigate those reports, and I'll work with the required authorities if necessary, the required third parties, or potentially just the chairman and vice chair, depending on what those reports are about, to ensure that there's protection for both the public as well as for the BLOC as a entity moving forward. So I'll leave it there for now from me, but I'd love to continue speaking about lots of this stuff moving forward. So I think I'll pass it on to Classy Zoj, to William, who is the vice chair of the BLOC.
Thank you. And the Zoj project began roughly 4 months prior to the creation or founding of BLOC Oversight. Patrick shot me a DM, and I was basically on board instantly with the idea, because having come into the space with no background, no support systems, basically nothing, and everybody's on themselves, the learning of best practices and how to engage the ecosystem, things like that, there was nobody to help anybody. With foundational infrastructure like BLOC, new projects who could potentially be good projects, they now have resources that previously weren't in existence, and for that we will see a lot less struggles in the space, a lot less rugs and things like that. But there's over 6,000 projects just on XRPL alone, and this is a multi-ecosystem thing. BLOC doesn't just service the XRPL, it services many blockchains as long as they meet standards. So there's a ton of resources and capabilities within BLOC and the projects that are members that people can, gain help from. But as sitting vice chair currently, my role in BLOC is to be a tertiary line of support to all of the different roles in BLOC. I'm not usually the main backup for most of our infrastructure. There's usually somebody dedicated to that. But a good example of that is right now I'm sitting in that role as well as CTO, and it lends really well to what I do, which is multi-chaining and things like that. So everybody in BLOC has a very important role, and as more projects and people come into it, we will be able to fill that out even better. And then I'm sorry, I'm going to pass it off to Joshua Qualley with Physical Digital.
Josh.
I got the ball. Hi, everybody. Happy to be here, Josh, with Physical Digital. And I did join this team a little bit late in the game, but I'm really happy to bring some skills and contribute to something that I think is very it's proactive rather than, this came out of a reactive thing, but what we're doing is proactive in nature, in that we're helping projects to meet a certain level of standard that is, I think, more than what the majority has out there. And, and sometimes that's in a consulting nature or what have you. But my position here is the security officer. So one of the things that I do is I will look at later on in the processes of onboarding, then I'll look at the information that's submitted from projects about their wallets, about what the project is, what they're doing, and that kind of thing. And I'll go and just look to confirm that everything that they submit is true. And if there's any questions, then I will usually connect with them and make sure that that we know kind of exactly what's going on, and we form that kind of a connection that, it's we're all kind of supportive of each other, and that's one of the things that you do get when you bring your project to the BLOC. But let's pass it over to Duncan.
Duncan has been having some issues with lag, so
did you say over to me?
Hear this? Okay, yep. I think he's just caught it, so it's all yours, Duncan.
You're good. Whenever you're up.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yep, we
can.
got you.
You're coming in loud and clear.
Right. Great. Perfect. So my name is Duncan, and I'm CEO of Treasury XRPL, and super excited to be here for launch of BLOC, which has been very many months in the making, planning, and getting everything into place. So really excited to see it starting to come to life. Where do I slot in regards to BLOC? I slot in as onboarding officer. So that would come right at the beginning of projects and individuals wanting to join BLOC in an official capacity. They would start their process BLOC socials to go on the website, where you'll be able to see initially there's a self-assessment on there to gauge initial eligibility of your project to join BLOC. And following that, you will then be able to contact onboarding via form and then open up channels with myself. And my role really slots in a kind of an advisory role to meet with you, discuss your sharing the BLOC Constitution, the bylaws, the code of conduct, all of the documents and the underwritings that you would be required to agree to abide. And through that process, it kind of gets you ready for the next stage, which is when it is runs the auditing. So we've worked incredibly hard to try and streamline the process so that people are guided through it. And one thing I would add to the comments that the other gentlemen have said regarding BLOC is it's very important for me anyway, and I'm sure you guys will echo it, to stipulate that BLOC isn't there in a kind of a policing style structure. BLOC is there to celebrate the very good actors on the blockchain, the projects that want to hold themselves to a higher standard, and is there to present those projects. So really excited, look forward to hopefully onboarding very many projects that are listing in now or will be listing back to that in the future. Thank you very much.
Well, I guess that might leave me. So I am you all may know me from the community. I'm JTXRP and really happy that to be here and to be a part of this. And so I was invited to come and help. I'm actually the chief of operations. I also sit on the board of the BLOC Oversight, or I guess we're just calling it the BLOC now. So I am super excited because I've got to help with some of the processes, to be a voice for of course, content creator side of things, as well as just be able to really try to make sure that, as a content creator, you have questions and you have the scrutinies that, which we want to hear more of. We're going to get feedback. It's one of the reasons that we're doing this, right? Is to hear y'all's questions, be able to answer them, and to even grow from this. And so I'm super excited to see this develop. I feel like this movement, this organization, which is a 501c3 nonprofit out of Texas, by the way, and does have a board, but the General Assembly can overrule the board at many points, as long as votes are taken appropriately. And again, that's all in our bylaws. You can go to our website and take a look at that. But it's extremely exciting to me because, as a content creator, we always say, hey, not financial advice, just in case something goes wrong. How amazing would it be? I mean, we may still have to say that for legal reasons, but at the same time, and none of this is, by the way, but, being able to promote good projects in the space without fear of something happening in the future, and knowing that the people are good actors in the space. It doesn't prevent everything all the time, and BLOC is not going to be perfect, but is going to set an extremely high standard that some projects, especially bad actors, are not going to be able to do unless they're yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to do
Well,
it. So
just
we'll
to that
see.
comment, JT, even if bad actors were to get through, part of the security onboarding process will be to withhold the information of those individuals, which we can then pass on to the authorities. So while we won't act as cops on the beat, we'll at least have the information on these bad actors that we can then pass on to the cops on the beat, if that makes sense.
It does.
Right. And on that note, I would just like to throw in that none of this is a guaranteed as far as projects within BLOC. We do the absolute best that we can to check into them, check into their project, do the auditing, get to know the individuals running the project, ensure that they're following best practices, and a general guideline of how to handle most situations can be achieved through BLOC. That guidance that most projects don't have at their inception can definitely sway whether they become a good project or a bad project. Our goal, like Joshua Qualley had said, is that we're proactive in our approach. We want to make sure that there's a lot less problems. We can't guarantee that there won't be any problems. However, through what we've all learned cumulatively and our mission statement, our intent, our constitution, bylaws, and things like that, we are absolutely certain that at minimum we will significantly reduce issues in the space, and not just the XRPL, other chains, as I had already stated previously. But Patrick?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've done here is essentially created the framework for improvement of a decentralized space into a structured space that is still very much free and capable of innovating, capable of moving. But we've set such a high standard that, for example, Bitcoin would not meet our standard, and you're going to see why in a minute. So we've basically built something here for a trustless organization to have a framework for trust, in that there would be consequences for any project that didn't follow the BLOC rules that was a member of BLOC. And also, we're going to be hosting through Reaper a bug bounty program. And if anyone out there can tell us a project that did not would have been able to meet all of our constitutional standards and our onboarding process and was still a rug pull, then we would love to know about that. And I will give you 1,000 XRP to the first person that brings me one, and then we'll fix it and we'll move on from there. So that's basically a reward and improvement program for us to continue to build out these standards to restrict and prevent rug pulls in the future.
Outstanding. I just wanted to quickly jump in as well and just make a comment generally about these regulations and standards that we're setting. Projects still fail. Even if they have the absolute best intentions in mind, if it's a really good business, it can still fail. So the BLOC cannot protect against a business failing. We do have some thresholds within our onboarding and security process, which will try and flesh some of that out to support those individuals who may be in like a bad financial position, for example. But ultimately, if a project doesn't have the uptake from the community and potentially just burns out, or who knows, there's so many things that can happen that make businesses fail. The BLOC can't protect against that. It's just it's impossible. The other thing, JT, I will pass it back to you because there's a few other people who aren't here, so this isn't the full group of BLOC. So JT, maybe you wanted to just talk to who those individuals are.
Yes. So Fred Rispoli is the legal counsel for the BLOC and also sits on the board. And besides that, I think who am I forgetting? It's been a rush trying to make sure everything's going.
So we definitely have other members. So for example, the Additions project has gone through the onboarding and security process, and they are part of BLOC now. Equally, Jeremy from the Astrals on X project has also gone through the onboarding process and is a member of BLOC.
Yes. So I was thinking just board members. I was like, man, I really hope I'm not forgetting someone. But all right. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to balance everything. And by the way, if you are on Twitter, if you are on LinkedIn, I will not be getting your questions because apparently the software we're using is not getting all of those to me. So please head over to YouTube if you're watching on there. on either Twitter or LinkedIn and put your questions there, because we want to make sure to get to them. But I just did receive an error that for some reason they are not loading. So with that being said, why don't we get into some of the questions, guys? And then we'll head over to the Constitution after some of those questions. Sound good?
Perfect.
All right. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second, and we're going to get to some of the questions. And our first question that we got, I believe in order, is, have any of you seen this crypto bill that Ben Armstrong or BitBoy supposedly has sponsored now and claims that he has shown John E. Deaton? Is BLOC working on their own bill?
So I'll field that one. So I'll say that BLOC does plan to work with regulators and in a educational sense to help the regulators to understand blockchain as a decentralized entity as a whole and what good regulation might look like, as opposed to necessarily writing a bill or pushing a bill. Ben Armstrong himself, BitBoy, probably wouldn't meet our standards given some of his previous behavior. So we're not too concerned about any bill he's writing.
And just for the record, guys, Duncan is having connectivity issues, so he's just popping out to try and come back in.
Cool. Well, if that answers that, awesome. If not, please make sure to put follow-ups inside. We'll try to get to them as we go. We will be going over to the Constitution after a couple questions, just so we can show you all, and it'll probably prompt even more questions. So just bear with us. But we'll go through a couple, wait, see if we can get Duncan back. And yep, this next is from Gotta Be. And our government regulators can be bought. What is your price? And
So
that's an extremely good question.
That's a great question. It's not a Snickers bar.
Yeah.
So BLOC is completely non-monetized. Everybody that has joined the BLOC is not getting paid to do so. There is no BLOC token. We are not accepting donations at this time. So everyone here has spent almost a year or in Josh's case, a few months of their life working diligently on this project for no compensation whatsoever, with no expectation of future compensation. So I would say we don't have a number, and you'd be very hard pressed to find a more integrity-driven group than the people you see in front of you today.
Yeah.
And if there is any questionable activity that anyone hears about, either both within BLOC or outside of the BLOC, please report it through to me, because it's absolutely against the ethics of this organization, and we will not be standing for anything along those lines. So while I know it's a bit of tongue in cheek, Gotta Be, absolutely not. There is no price.
Yes,
Right.
I just want to throw in real quick to James's point. You can go to the contact if you know of any bad behaviors. You can actually report it to James himself. You can go in the contact form, and there is a drop down for ethics, and he'll receive your emails. And so I believe everyone in this project is doing pretty amazing. So, but we will be investigating all of those things to the best of our ability. Now, again, it is not just about us, right? Because the different projects that join BLOC will make up the organization. And they will also have, we are the board, we are helping to set that direction, and we help to drive the organization, but it is the volunteers and the other leadership that join that are going to be what really moves in that space, and their volunteerism to help move the space together. So sorry, Classy, go ahead.
Yeah, awesome. And that's actually a really good question, but Gotta Be, I just got to say to you and everybody else, everybody in here, except for JT and Fred with legal. Well, Fred has his own business, but every one of these is a company. They have a profit model or a capability of generating revenue legitimately. And BLOC doesn't have any inward or outward facing material that is for sale or could be for sale. And any attempt to bribe somebody in BLOC would be very, very unsuccessful, because it's all done by an equal system of votes. I regularly get outvoted on things that I vote for. And if you were to buy somebody in BLOC somehow, which I highly doubt you could even manage to bribe one, much less buy one, you wouldn't get the whole consensus of the group. And you would definitely, you would be known like the other ones. More than likely, as soon as you made an offer like that, everybody would know about it in BLOC.
Yeah, but there are guards and protections. I encourage everyone who has that particular question to look at our bylaws and look at how the organization is set up, because we put a lot of thought in trying to prevent exactly that issue. So
there's a reason why it took us so long to launch.
I think it's a good thing here to mention the fact that conflicts of interest, financial conflicts of interest, are something that we talk about when we're going through our onboarding process and our auditing process, right? To make sure that if there is somebody that has a significant stake in any of the with any of the founders here, that we are aware of it, and that if need be, then that person, whoever has that relationship, then somebody else would be available to vote for that.
Yeah, and I'd just add to this that the BLOC structure is not a permanent structure of leadership. Everybody here will have a term limit, and there will be an election by the General Assembly to replace us, myself and everyone else included. We're not here to do this for the rest of our lives. This is an organization which started as a democratic organization that will build into the future what blockchain looks like as if it was a decentralized government. And
with that being said, we can move on to our next question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yep.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. It's one of the first ones being asked. I was like, man, it's great. Thank you, Gotta Be. Next is from James Anthony. Shout out to you. How can we how can we rally and get the community to support this in any way that can show strength in numbers?
So I've actually seen this. Yeah, this question's popped up quite a bit, and it's been repeated from a few people. And I think the best way is to spread awareness. I think that's probably the strongest support that the BLOC can have, especially now as we're just launching. So sharing a tweet, liking and following us on social media, just spreading the word around what we're doing and how we're doing it, as well as if you are a project yourself and you're interested in being part of this thing that we're building. Let's get in contact with us, and Duncan will have a chat with you on onboarding. You'll eventually talk to Josh and do the security audits. So that's probably another way that you can support us. But ultimately, awareness right now is probably the biggest thing that we need. This is a fresh organization. Even though we've been building for so long in the background, the public will still be very, very new to what we're doing.
And I would add to that, if you're invested or part of projects that have never heard of BLOC, you might propose to them, hey, is this a BLOC compliant project? Does it plan on being a BLOC compliant project? And that's actually a great question for you to protect yourself, because if they say they are not interested in BLOC, it's probably a red flag once you've seen what we've built here and why the things exist. So it's going to be a way for the investors in other projects to hold those devs accountable. And if those devs don't meet BLOC standards, there's a reason for it, and you should start asking questions.
I wanted to add real quick that one of the things that, the people you see before here today, and you will see a lot on my channel. And the reason for that is because I've stopped besides the extremely rare exception that may have already applied to BLOC or been a part of this process. And I'm not going to be covering anyone else besides BLOC projects for my channel. So that is, and I think if other content creators did the same and didn't, it would greatly help to increase that validity. Now, would that be limiting? Absolutely. And I understand that may not work for everyone. But I think for me, it's going to be like, I know what we've worked on and I know what we've built and I know the people that are here, and I just cannot imagine, promoting anything that hasn't undergone this myself. So I think what Patrick's is straight on point. Why, if you ask a project, why are they not BLOC compliant? Oh, we haven't gotten around to it yet. And it's been 6 months. I still haven't gotten around to it. I'd be like, okay, that might definitely be a red flag in my mind. And I have people messaging me from other projects and I'm like, hey, as soon as you, apply to the BLOC and pass, I'm happy to talk with you more. But for me, this is where I'm going to be drawing the line to help protect the people that I am that are viewing my channel, because I don't want to take content down. I won't have to deal with the lack of sleep at night for for people that
Misinformation.
misinformation, lost money. All the people that may seem great whenever they reach out to you in your DMs and get them on your channel, but then they do something horrible. So I really think I have to do everything I can, and I think that the more people take that mindset, that it will be helpful to the space. So that's just me. Anyone else have anything before we move on?
Yeah, I do. I have a slightly more pessimistic view on this. I do believe, unfortunately, that people tend to be a bit more reactionary, especially with cases like throwing tremendous amounts of money at exchanges that they have no transparency, like FTX. And I don't want to get into that, but from the inception of crypto, we've been told not your keys, not your crypto, and a lot of good speakers giving us best practices. I know I've been tweeting for months various protections that people could take to help them and reduce the odds that they will have any trouble. But people tend to do things after the fact, and I think that as BLOC proves validity over time by giving good standpoints, articles, things to that effect, and then unfortunately, more problems occur in the space, the cohesion will come to us. We won't necessarily have to chase it, but also in chasing it, I don't think we'll be entirely successful, just due to the fact that most of the space and most people are reactionary. They don't worry about the fire department until there's actually fires occurring. Then all of a sudden they say, why didn't they have the resources? So we're seeing the same thing in government. We're addressing those issues. Obviously, a lot of things will get past us because it's impossible in scope. However, as time goes on, BLOC can become much larger because infrastructure has to be built before funding and accreditation can come to it.
With that being said, we'll move on to answer one last quick question. I think we'll head into the Constitution since we got Duncan back and we can move forward. Last one that we're going to take for until we get done with the Constitution is this one. It's from Gotta Be. It's the next question in the row that I see, at least. Do you plan on branching out, or will you strictly stay on the XRPL? And I want to answer this, and go ahead. Never mind, James, go ahead.
I don't need to say much more. I'm just going to point out William, because William is currently on pretty much every single good blockchain out there. He's a one-man army, really. It's quite fascinating. But I will compliment a few people, which we probably will get to a little later on. But the block has not only been built by XRPL projects, the block has been built from other people who have come and consulted with us and worked with us on creating the framework that we currently have. So we are definitely multi-blockchain. This is for all of cryptocurrency, really. It's not limited to the XRPL.
Yep.
Technically, my project is on Songbird. I haven't launched yet one on XRP yet.
Awesome. But yeah, I want to make sure that, if you're on Ethereum and if you're on all these other ones, there's a lot of projects here that maybe have started this effort, but we really want and encourage, and we need the entire blockchain space to unite and to be able to push this technology and do it, in a way that's ethical, a way that, values human rights, a way that, is good and going to be helpful to the rest of the world, rather than whatever the opposite of that is, which we don't want. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll jump into the Constitution. I'm going to hide the current comment. There we go. We do this. I had another one before. I like this better.
You might need to blow it up a little bit so they can actually read it.
Okay. Let me see. Trying to figure out.
There you go.
All right.
If you can get that to the even further zoomed in, it'll be unreal. Like to the whole sides, the extension of there we go.
All right.
That's it.
All right, so I'll kind of start this off on the Constitution. So the Blockchain Leadership Oversight Council is what BLOC stands for, and you see our logo, which we can do a little explainer on the logo a bit later. It's esoteric as all things they do. So on the 27th day of February 2022 is when we first ratified this. We founders and entrepreneurs within the blockchain technology sector hereby ratify the Blockchain Leadership Oversight Council, or BLOC. The purpose of the BLOC is to regulate by voluntary participation the landscape of which blockchain products are offered to the public by recognizing the following consumer rights. So I'm going to take a little segue right there. So when the American Constitution was first founded, a lot of people don't know this, but there was a huge battle to get a Bill of Rights into the Constitution, and they actually failed to do so initially. So when we built this Constitution, we focused first on the consumer and the Bill of Rights of the end user before focusing on the structure of the so-called government, as it were. So this is really all focused on you and what the different blockchain, what our companies, what Reaper, Zoe, Schmeckles, Treasury, Physical Digital, JT, what we owe you. And this is not us claiming any rights. It's us telling you what you deserve. So with that, I'll pass it off to whoever wants to take number one.
I'll take number one. The right to know the origins of the investment bodies and those personnel who are participating in the management of a monetary product. It is the official position of the BLOC that only those monetary products which publicly disclose the identity, locality, and percentages of control in a blockchain vehicle may be regarded as legitimate products. A legitimate project will make themselves publicly visible and available for reasonable questions from their community.
So this is basically talking about doxing, right? So there's a lot of projects out there, and this is kind of where business myopia comes in, is that because blockchain started with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin was Satoshi Nakamoto, who was completely anonymous and unknown, a ghost of a figure. There was a propensity by future blockchain companies to decide that everything that happened in cryptocurrency needed to be anonymous. Now, that might have been good for the initial launch of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin for its survival to date. However, for us to move into the next phase of Web3 and to where companies and countries are using this technology, and your parents, your grandmother, your grandfather, your sister, your little brother, the people you care about in your lives, for them to be using this technology, do we really want the people and the forces behind it to be anonymous, or do we want people to be accountable and transparent? And so with this, we've basically said that you have a right to know who you are entrusting with your finances and with the well-being of your family.
And put comments or questions below. And who wants to get number two?
I'll jump on to number two. So the right to disclosure. Legitimate blockchain products must provide the public with a document regarding its formation. Informally, we refer to this as a white paper. This founding document provides a foundation of why the product exists, what utility or reason for existing it has, the delegation of its governance, and the plan for the future growth and sustainment of the asset. It is the position of the BLOC that blockchain products that do not offer this disclosure are illegitimate and cannot be recognized. All BLOC members must agree to an individual disclosure of background for each BLOC representative and to represent the values and code of conduct of the BLOC.
I like that. It's if a person equates that to, it's very similar to what in a traditional business environment, if you were going to go start a business, get a loan from the bank, if you were looking for financing, then you would have to have a business plan. And so, when you go through and you do a white paper, it's very similar to a business plan, and the who, what, when, where, why, what's the sustainability, what are the inputs, what are the outputs, is it does it have traction? Is it, this, I don't think this doesn't really apply to those projects that are just doing onesie twosies, like one piece here, one piece there. I believe what we're looking at is people that are more doing something that is delivering more and is planning to be around for a long time.
Yep. We want people that are, especially in BLOC, we definitely want people that are wanting to help move the space, that are passionate about blockchain technology, and have a use case for it. As or in this case, we also have Zoj and Schmeckles here, and they are extremely good examples of good actors in the space that that are community based, and that's also something we take into account. So yep. Anyone else have anything for number 2? Nope. All right. Who's got number 3?
I'll grab that one.
All right.
I'll jump
The
in
right-
with number 3.
Go for it, Duncan.
So
I know
to
you're a bit
access,
lagging.
Consumers. Okay. The right consumers' right to view information via website and receive longer written communication from blockchain companies through social media interfaces. Teams or employees of companies should be within reason available for open communication. No product should be considered legitimate without such available access.
So what we're talking about here with the right to access is effectively, if you have a problem, if there's something that's gone wrong with your financial investment where you have put your money into a product, you have a right to have some support, some tech support, some explaining something from that development team or community is expected. So there shouldn't be any project out there that's just throwing out a digital token and then you can't actually reach anybody when there's an issue. And that is something that we recognize, especially in these projects in front of you. I don't think there's a single project in front of you that you wouldn't be able to get a response from within probably a couple of hours.
Cool. Classy, you got 4?
Yeah. Number 4, the right to progress. A consumer should reasonably expect that a technological product is in the pursuit of progress. Companies and products must have a reason to exist, growth intentions, and a clear mission which is readily stated to a customer. And this just means basically it's not invalidating a meme like Zoj, which is a great example, because even memes technically do have an intent and purpose if they're driving a speculation-based market and facilitating a good market for that. This just means that the projects have to be working towards more, or actually doing things. They can't just be stagnant. And the main purpose of this is to prevent people from just feeling like their project leads or the project that they've got something going with it is just falling completely flat.
Yeah, and I would add to that. So one thing a lot of people don't realize when they're on the consumer side of this is that for a developer, launching a project is very much like having a baby. You have to nurse it, you have to feed it, you have to grow it, and it's going to be there the rest of its life. Launching a blockchain token, regardless of what exchange or what blockchain it's on, you're putting something out into the universe, into the ecosystem that you can't take back. It's decentralized. People now own it, and they have a right, because they own that product that you put into the universe, they have a right to expect that it's going to be worth something in the future. Even if it's not worth monetary value, they have a right to expect it's going to have a utility or a use case or something that wasn't there without it existing.
Gotcha. Wanted to move on to 5. Josh, can you get that for us? Okay.
Yeah, so the right to accountability. For any project to be accountable, it should be backed by a legal company, corporation, or other legally registered entity, which must be publicly disclosed. The organization of a project of a product as the offering of a company raises the bar of ethical standards and provides customers avenues for legal reproach in the situation that a member of that company commits an illegal act. Any blockchain product that is not directly tied to a registered legal entity cannot be considered as a safe investment, given there's no ethical obligation of an individual has provided no contract with the consumer. And so one thing that I'd like to mention here is that there is different types of classifications in different jurisdictions around the world. In Canada, we have something called, we have essentially 3 tiers. So we have, if you as an individual, just, you're going out, you're doing your thing, you're buying, you're selling things on, secondhand markets, what have you. We have, if you wanted to be something called a sole proprietor, that's where you have a registered name and you have to track that business, the business investments and taxes separately, but it's combined with your personal income at the end of the year. And there is no legal protection for the individual from the business side. That is one and the same. And that is currently what I am. And then you have limited or corporate, which has a separate legal classification. So when it comes to accountability, for myself, one of the reasons why I try to do and be as upfront, reachable, and transparent as possible is because I can personally be held legally accountable. I don't have any kind of a corporate protection in place. So the bar for me needs to be higher. And it's one of the reasons why I have my personal cell phone number available for people to connect with me.
Yep. I want to jump in here just real quick. This is already a worldwide organization. We have Duncan here, who is in the UK. We have Joshua, who's in Canada. We have James from Schmeckles. And we also have some other, sorry, he's from Australia. He's not from Schmeckles. He's from Australia. But I keep thinking of his NFTs and like the land of Schmeckles. But yeah, so we definitely encourage, and if you're in a different jurisdiction, we've already been dealing with that. You as a new project would already be providing richness, and we would love to get as much coverage from people developing the blockchain space all around the world. But of course, make sure that these rights are covered. But we'll continue. I guess I'll go ahead and read number 6 since we've got through everyone already. The right to financial disclosure. It is the position of the block that as blockchain and cryptocurrency items are traded publicly amongst consumers, they must uphold a reasonable level of transparency relatable to a publicly traded company. This means that all legitimate blockchain products will provide a publicly disclosed prospectus, income statements, balance statements, and ownership disclosure no less than annually. This is assessed on a case-by-case basis as it fits the model of the individual project. Yep. We'll let one of y'all talk about that one because I'm not a project. So.
Yeah, so I'll field that a little bit. So
Okay.
Obviously, Reaper Financial is going to, our aim is to be a financial company for blockchain products with a suite of services. And we understand that basically everybody who's invested in either Reaper, Ascension, Arc, or any of these other projects is basically a shareholder. Now, shareholders of publicly traded companies do have certain rights and are afforded certain things under, the Securities Act. Well, clearly, cryptocurrency and blockchain products do not fit the Howey definition of securities. We've had this discussion. It's kind of been beaten to death. And there needs to be a new framework and a new structure. So what we decided was this is a easy ask that can be met by any reasonable company to provide this financial disclosure. So there is no excuse not to provide it just because we are not a security.
Right. And on that note, guys, I'd just like to say that currently many exchanges are squirming to try to provide some kind of transparency on their assets held backing their customers' funds that they've received, and they don't want to do it. And that's why this is so important, because in the shadows is where the bad people lurk.
It's even worse than that with the exchanges. Just to speak to that comment, they've been sharing funds between exchanges between the US and China and things like that. It's really wild what's going on behind the scenes. And I really like, just a comment as an Aussie, like the SEC chasing projects is just the absolute incorrect method. They should be chasing these centralized exchanges to protect the masses. And that's where their focus should have been from the get-go. And I hope it is one of their focuses moving forward.
Well, no, on that note too, it's kind of funny that they're chasing non-fraud cases over fraud cases. It's just wild, unbelievable.
Yeah. I totally agree, but let's get back to the Constitution and how it will help those things in the future, maybe. Who wants to take 7?
I'll take it.
Okay.
So the right to neutrality. All those companies recognized by the bloc must strive to be non-exclusive. Discrimination of any kind is not appropriate within a global financial system. Participation in or endorsement of discrimination based on race, color, gender, sexual orientation, religion, age, or any other human condition will not be tolerated. Support of hate-based organizations will be strictly forbade by this organization. No investor should ever incur a financial loss because of the bias of a member of the blockchain community. So basically what we're saying here is that blockchain is a global implement, and the intention of blockchain is to help humanity as a whole. It is not to help one group surpass another group. It is to quite literally empower everybody. And so we, as we said, we won't tolerate any kind of discrimination. Myself, coming from a background in the Army, I'm very used to that. And I think everybody in front of you is very, I don't even want to use the word tolerant, very accepting of everybody. However, we understand there are some, populations out there that still think less of other populations. And unfortunately, those will not be permitted into this organization until they essentially grow up and are able to accept everyone on equal footing.
Well said. I definitely want to get this. We have a ton of questions coming in about all these, and I know we have quite a bit to get through. So I'm just going to move on to 8 real quick. Who wants to grab 8?
I'll jump in. The right to ecosystem support. It is reasonable to expect that all legitimate companies which host a future forward blockchain product should strive to support or aid in the advancement and operation of their ecosystem. Further, it is reasonable to expect that in general, a company should work in the best interest of the larger community.
So it's not just the individual project, it's the ecosystem and trying to support it that is the focus.
Most definitely. And being a part of BLOC could simply be that fulfilled, right? So giving back to the ecosystem through a board like the BLOC, or through being a member of the BLOC.
Yep. And being a member, we definitely encourage people to volunteer to help. It's not just, you said that being a member of BLOC could be a part of that. Yes. But you can, we encourage people that are members to be a part of the different subcommittees we've set up. Each one of these individuals before you heads up part of these subcommittees. And so they are needing volunteers and want to collaborate with other leaders in the space to be able to help build BLOC. And it's in its different ways. So if you want to participate in onboarding, Duncan will be able to help assist you. If you want to be able to participate in ethics and help make sure the BLOC stays the great organization that it's supposed to be, you can hit up James and all the others and so forth. So just wanted to say that we are a 501c3. We're a nonprofit. We are here and we need your volunteerism as leaders in this space as well, for those of you that are projects or individuals based on our other criteria. So let's move on to 9. I'll go ahead and read it. The right to security is the right of consumers to reasonably expect that companies handling the funds and or private information of customers should do their due diligence in working to safeguard the personal information of their investors. All BLOC recognized companies will undergo a security audit to ensure the safety of consumers. And I think it only fitting that I hand that off to Josh, our security officer, to talk about that for a second.
Okay, so let's talk about security. It's important to have to know that the project knows about cybersecurity. They are doing things to protect themselves. They're handling their own keys responsibly. They've got some kind of a process that even multi-sig is really nice if it's possible, but that they are also doing things that if they are taking personal information like shipping, receiving, or they're shipping product or what have you, that they are keeping that personal information private, right? And so something to add to this is that when projects come and go through the process with us, we make sure that all that information is held very judiciously and in a safe way with limited access.
Yep. So can you take just a few seconds to talk about the audit?
Sure. Yeah. So the audit, it's a longer form document. It comprises two different parts. So there's a disclosure piece, and we just want to make sure, that the person has a history of doing the right thing in the industry, that they don't have a past that is could be a potential risk to new investors or to the block, and that they go through and they're filling out the who, what, when, where, why of their project, and that once they go through this document, then you can reasonably assume they know their business, their industry, what they're trying to do, how they're trying to do it, and that they're communicating that properly to the customers and to the people that they're doing business with. And so what I do is I would go through that document and I verify it.
Awesome. Who wants to get 10?
Yeah, I can get 10.
Cool.
10, the right to technical proficiency. The consumers of a blockchain technology have a reasonable right to assume that all blockchain companies are using sound technical practices and that those technical details are plainly and publicly stated for all consumers to review. It is, as always, the responsibility of the consumer to research, DYOR, and decide on the acceptable level of risk based on the blockchain company has disclosed.
So I would comment on this that we're not just talking about small blockchain projects here. This would apply very much to something like Luna, in which Luna had a algorithmic pegged stable token, and clearly they lacked the technical proficiency to maintain that peg. And that is why $60 billion was wiped from the market, and all of crypto as a whole suffered as the result of their lack of proficiency in their space.
Yep. Who wants 11?
I can do that. So the right to fiduciary duty, a consumer has the right to expect that should a blockchain company take custody of any customer assets for any reason, I think the example here would be staking, the customer must still maintain total ownership of the personal assets. Custody does not equal ownership. The blockchain company should never borrow against, lend, nor leverage any consumer assets for any reason. And, this is one of the reasons why a lot of people got into cryptocurrency, because they were sick of the banks doing this with fractional reserve lending money that they didn't have, and creating just excess risk for everybody involved through this whole system. And, we seen in 2008, the consequences of this. I think a lot of people were sick with the banking and they started getting into cryptocurrency, but it was very much in a reason that, we're going to get into crypto and we're not going to disclose anything. And we're going to, stay behind the rafters, and we're going to do shady business, and we're just going to make a bunch of money. And this is not that space anymore. and we got to expect more. And I think that it's a lot of the traditional business environment has customer protection laws. They have advertising laws. They have unfair advertising laws for people that are not letting customers know about the risks involved. And so, with fiduciary duty, we want to make sure that the projects are not going and doing risky things with funds, with people's funds or investments or their NFTs or any of their assets, so that especially unbeknownst to those people. But it creates more risk, and I think this was definitely a necessary number 11.
And to speak to it further, like to move away from banks have insurance with insurance bodies as well as government backing in a lot of countries. We're seeing centralized exchanges doing this now. So people are moving away from the traditional finance system into the crypto system, and they're making mistakes worse than trusting your money in a bank, right? So FTX is probably the thought on the front of everyone's mind. They pretty much disobeyed 11 as much as you could potentially disobey it. Like they really did take advantage of the public, and they did it behind a lie. So it's a very important one, number 11.
Duncan, you want to start us off on the first paragraph here?
Yeah, sounds good. So, benefits of BLOC membership. By voluntarily meeting the standards of the BLOC and applying to the BLOC for membership, those companies will receive the benefit of the community knowledge of a larger team of specialists, whom each have unique experience and background skills. In essence, BLOC is a team of teams through with water, all boats will rise. Rather than competing for scraps, together we will build a society of value through shared resources. The BLOC will coordinate and assist members to advance their business legitimacy, and together we will face the changing regulatory environment as a united front. And this is something that I find being a huge benefit of joining BLOC. And we've seen it in the time that we've all been working behind the scenes to build the framework for BLOC. We've already benefited from being that little bit closer together, having gone through the audits and having that level of trust. And there may have been some kind of collaborations and some working that may not even have been evident to people in the public, but there's been a lot that's been happening behind the scenes. And I can only see that growing as the network of BLOC members increases. And it just breaks down that initial barrier of, do I trust this project enough to do business with them, collaborate with them, or whatever? There's still going to be a level of scrutiny and a responsibility on each project to still do their due diligence on that project they're about to collaborate with. But BLOC is a huge vote of confidence in any project that you may be considering, partnering with, collaborating with, or doing something with.
Right, and on that as well, I'd just like to throw in that for a meme project like Zoj, the access to an entire ecosystem of skilled individuals that are typically found backing utility-based projects, or what one would consider a lot more serious of a project. Zoj has had access to things like that, tools and utilities. Most of the time one would assume to be out of our pay grade, this is fantastic access to reach, and the benefits for joining BLOC, being within BLOC, the knowledge and the peers that you get to surround yourself with are probably the main benefits that I find in it, because it's so good. Like the best practices and the people I get to talk to, the opportunities for classes or connections that I otherwise wouldn't have. It's really, really important, like lawyers and accountants and things like that.
Cool. Who wants to take the last two paragraphs? Patrick, you want to? Or I guess three.
Yeah, sure. I'll hit it.
Okay.
Well, maybe not all three. So
okay, I'll grab the last one.
So the BLOC will not be a pay to participate organization. So I will kind of segue here before I continue from that part. There are other organizations out there that claim to provide legitimacy to blockchain products and to other cryptocurrency projects. Most of those organizations do no more than charge that project for basically a stamp of approval, which is disheartening, and it's not worth anything because all they've had to do is pay for it, and it really disincentivizes those groups from turning anybody down. And in our time, just in the 10 months we've been forming this, we've already turned down probably 40% of applicants because they didn't meet the standard. So going from there, our focus is quality, which in turn creates value. As an organization, we will pool both our talent and capabilities. We will create an assistance network through which we will aid in promoting members to the next level of growth. The BLOC is a forum for projects to raise issues, challenges, or requests amongst their peer developers, and for project leaders to assist others for the betterment of their community. So clearly everybody in this group has already been working together, and there's already been benefits that everyone has seen. For those out there that are Reapers and no Reaper, you might note that almost all of these projects are hard slotted. It's not because they are just good friends. It's because they're projects that I have faith in because they've met a higher standard. And with that, they've also become part of Ascension, and they basically get all of the benefits of the entire Reaper ecosystem by being a member of BLOC. So it's not that they're a member of BLOC because they were part of Reaper first. They're a part of Reaper because they're a member of BLOC. Cool. Last paragraph, members will have access to the cumulative knowledge and contacts of the group, i.e. we maintain internal database listing best practices. We list exchange fees, contacts from those exchanges, bolos or people to be on the lookout for, influencer fees, who the allies in the space are and who bad actors in the space are. This is an invaluable resource for new companies entering the space as it assists them in streamlining growth while avoiding pitfalls. We also include a beginner's guide and mentorship for those looking to launch a new project, given they are in concurrence with the consumer rights established by the BLOC. And I'll actually take a second to segue from that to Bump Treasury and Treasury Academy, who has a great system in the works for those new projects that are pre-launch or looking to
launch. Venture.
Sorry, Venture. He's got so many, it's hard to keep track.
Academy's awesome as well. Look into that too.
Academy is also awesome, yeah. So Venture, and basically Venture helps a project stand up in accordance with BLOC values and the Constitution as they go. And then they are in a pipeline to reach into the BLOC and become a full member. And with that, they're in a pipeline to become a hard slotted token and part of Ascension. And basically that means by being a part of this whole extended ecosystem with the BLOC and Treasury and all of these projects, you are choosing a roadmap to success apart from your regular project.
And to speak to that last paragraph a little bit more, like I've made mistakes with Schmeckles, and so has my team. And I'm sure most of the other members up here have made mistakes in their project through the 1 year or however long it's been since you've been launched. We're offering those tips to BLOC members, and we speak about these types of things in our meetings all the time. Is we will stumble from time to time, but it's more so about how we define ourselves after those mistakes. Letting the public know that we have made these mistakes, and supporting new projects coming into this space, how to avoid those mistakes that we did make.
Cool. Right. And on that note, I would just say that I usually, and most of us do, sum it up as something as simple as best practices, but that couple words does not sum up just how many thousands of possible potential mistakes or errors or tactical missteps a project could take, there are a tremendous amount of rug options and pitfalls. As a project developer, we don't believe in BLOC that most projects who launch actually have a bad intent, though the majority of projects that do launch end up poorly or fail. And there's a reason, and that reason isn't just because people inherently are bad, it's that people inherently don't have the necessary skills. And that's where BLOC comes in.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that I think that there's a tremendous knowledge resource here that you gain by being part of the BLOC, and it's a camaraderie similar to that 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 the other people that are here meet a certain level of qualification, and when you make it through the process, you know exactly what it is and what they're not only providing to their communities in quality, but what they have to be able to provide to each other. And there's already connections that I've made in this very short time with members of the BLOC here that have benefited not only myself, but my community, and where I can give back, I can in any way possible. And so it doesn't need to just be a take, it can be a collaborative approach. And there's definitely a lot of opportunity here to do that with a lot of projects that represent different things in different ways, right? We've got projects that are doing meme tokens and different types of art and games and publishing, and you got your reaping and all kinds of stuff. And I think there'll be a lot more to come in the future. It's going to be exciting to see.
Yep, I personally can't wait for the gaming space to come on board. I feel like that's going to be a very interesting. Love to see gaming projects join the BLOC personally. Would love to be able to see how they can help the space develop as well as more utility and of course everything else. But I'm sorry, I'm a gamer as well. Just have to say it. Are we at the last paragraph? Is that me?
All right. We hit the last one, I believe.
Oh, we did? Okay. Cool.
No, did we read it?
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah.
No,
Go ahead.
not yet.
So as a member of the BLOC, you will have the opportunity to present issues of governance for the whole of blockchain. And if consensus is found amongst the members, an official position may be published to support the position and raise public awareness for the community. The BLOC will maintain public presence similar to a regulatory authority. The BLOC aims to be the public standard of self-governance and credibility for the blockchain. Sorry.
Right, and coming into this, it's obviously a very tall order, but we've looked at many different nations' laws currently establish legal expectations, both minimums and maximums, and compared them across many different jurisdictions. And in every case that we've looked into, we are above those expectations. Our minimum is either at their maximum, or we are in areas that they haven't even begun to think about yet. And this all lends to our ability later on as a larger organization to help guide the hands that need information to draft legislation.
Yep. And this is something that as we grow and as we gain more people and leaders in this space, and fantastic individuals as the opportunity is, the ability and for us to drive forward some of these things and help educate, because the BLOC is again an educational nonprofit, to help educate people like lawmakers, other people that are trying to start projects or that are new projects, where because it takes 90 days to be BLOC approved, by the way. So I think that will help answer someone's question that was being asked. Tried to sneak one in there for you. Hope that helped. But also these are all our different positions. This is us signing the Constitution, but I also want to make sure that we call out some significant individuals that helped to build this. And I really just want to take a second, and all of us do, if y'all have some words that you want to say, but I just want to make sure we say thank you to Matthew Maciel, Christopher Blevins, Amy Hulse, and Brandon Lee for their contributions to the BLOC, because while they're not necessarily here anymore, they all made excellent efforts and helped us to really added to the conversation and the depth of the soup, if you will, of what BLOC now is. So y'all have anything else to say or call
Well,
out?
it's just a testament to what we have been building and for how long we have been building, that some people have gone through their lifetime of their membership or part of being in BLOC already. Like it's been that long. And I just want to congratulate those who have remained, because it has been tough. And I'm sure there's been times when all of us have just been like, I've got so many other things that I could be paid for with this time, but I'm dedicating my time to this organization for free, you know? So I'm just so proud of what we have created, and I'm so proud of being up here alongside all of you gentlemen. We need to get some women up here eventually, and then it's sad to have Amy had left us, but so this is a call out to the women out there, get over here. But yeah, it's been a long slog, and I'm just so proud of us for getting to this point, and definitely a big thanks to all those people who have helped along the way, who are no longer with us due to moving on.
Yeah, and on that, I would like to say a special thank you to Matthew Maciel for all of the critical thinking. Chris Blevins, can you put that back up?
Oh, yep, sure. Sorry.
Chris Blevins for excellent in the know technical know-how and knowledge from his position at Microsoft. Amy for her ethical understandings and her position at Microsoft as well. And Brandon Lee for all of the collaboration, cooperation with security auditing, the Zoj project, and assisting the community in the Zoj project as well.
And I'd just like to add to that there are also some that weren't even on this list that assisted us along the way, to include some influencers, some of the well-known attorneys out there in the XRP ledger, and some of the projects, even the projects that didn't make it through to BLOC standards, really helped us to grow along the way by guiding the end outcome. So I appreciate all of them. I appreciate all those who are trying, and I hope some of them that didn't make it will be back. So yeah, it was definitely a collaborative effort. And I do want to second what James said about inviting diversity in the BLOC. We very much want absolute participation from every group we can have participation from. So nobody is excluded. And we invite anybody with any interest to come and be a part of it.
Welcome, Fred, by the way. This is Fred Rispoli. And for those of you who are not aware of him, he's awesome, and he is our legal counsel and another director on the board. So,
sorry I'm late, everyone, but it is nice to see so many good-looking faces out there on the stream.
Right?
He's looking at James from Schmeckles.
Oh my God. Right back at you, Fred.
All right. Well, Fred, we've been taking some early questions. We just went over the Constitution. We're about to go into more questions. So if there's anything about the legal side of things, it's really great to have you here. And or just in general, if you have questions, for Fred and so forth. But
and actually, I'd love to give Fred a chance to speak to what this organization is and what his role in it is, and why the BLOC is important enough for him to spend his his very valuable time with us without charging us lawyer fees for it. So thank you for that. But yeah, just if you have anything to share.
Yeah, well, I know that we've all got some videos that are coming out that get kind of at a little bit more of what we're each doing and bringing to the table for BLOC and what BLOC is. And, I talk about it in my video with JT. He's a great interviewer. But basically, BLOC isn't the only crypto association, project-based association out there. So what are we doing to be better or standing out or kind of moving the goals of what this space is supposed to become more than those other ones? And that's where the BLOC is going to excel, and I think has excelled already with the stringent standards that everybody has to meet to get in here. It's just very refreshing because we've got those standards that are public, they're available. there are there for anyone to see. And a lot of those associations, the other ones don't have that. And, you're going to see us down the road being more involved in a lot of issues that are coming up, all over the place, in any jurisdiction, to really fight for the industry and especially, the members that are a part of the group.
Yep. We are looking into, of course, the Block General Assembly meetings that we have every so often. The idea has been thrown around for round tables where the community can come in and join in the conversation, depending. We're looking at exactly how we might host those and be a little bit different for the community. But yeah, thank you again so much, Fred, for joining us. Does everyone have anything else to say real quick? Or do y'all mind us jumping back? Because we've got like 23 questions waiting, by the way.
Yeah, let's get through them.
All right. So, let's pop in here. This question is from Locked, I believe. It's one of one. Just a suggestion. I'm not sure if it's possible. I support your oversight roles, but it is limited to who chooses to be a part of BLOC. But what if ZUM itself, together with, and this is the second part, the XRPL formally uses BLOC as the gatekeepers for new projects?
So if I'll field that one. So if XM Wallet or XRPL.services, whoever you want to classify them as, decide to come and approach us for potentially building out a gateway for onboarding, I wouldn't necessarily want us to be the gatekeepers. However, we are a standards organization, so we would probably be more than happy to help them construct from our experience and with our constitution and our bylaws what a good standard would be for onboarding through their services.
So I'll jump into that as well. And I just want to say there's a diverse way that tokens can be used. And not all of them are projects that are going to go public and that need to be governed by a board like the BLOC or a regulatory body like the BLOC. An example may be a sports team who want to have a cryptocurrency token, which is a token of them being part of the team. So it's just, I've got a token in my ZUM wallet, which means I'm part of team A. There's no need for the BLOC to look into a group like that. There's no need for that group to be part of BLOC. There's no need for ZUM to limit their ability to create a token and be part of the XRPL. So I think it would be very difficult to set the standard of BLOC onto everybody and to paint everybody with the same brush, because there is a very diverse use of tokens and yeah. So, but for the bigger projects, it would be fantastic if we could work with ZUM and help them enforce some of this stuff.
Right, and on that, I'd just say that I'm pretty sure that you can go through token verifications through ZUM prior to being a 3-month-old or older project. So we don't have exactly the same expectations. Ours are pretty hard, and if we were to work with them, it would be, we're not going to lighten our expectations. Our expectations only get harder in most cases. So as long as it was everybody benefiting, as far as the consumer having the most protection or oversight help, then we could possibly be on board.
You're on mute, JT.
What do we got next for question here?
Oh, well. I said if there was nothing else, I guess I'll move on. So sorry.
9 to 5 freedom.
Yeah, 9 to 5. So have you guys tried to estimate the time and cost for a project to get and stay within compliance of the bylaws and rules? I'm sure it could vary, but an estimate could help projects see ROI. And so I believe he's talking about like the cycle time, the time from someone, starting the process to the end, and then staying compliant.
So I would love to jump onto this before anybody does, because I'm going to say something very controversial.
Okay.
And that is that a project should not be starting up with the sole focus on return of investment when they're thinking about regulations and doing the right thing by the ecosystem. And this is nothing against the question 9 to 5. I just believe personally that if you are a serious contender in this space and you want to take this space seriously, that it doesn't matter how much it costs. If you want to do the right thing, there is no price on that. You just have to do the right thing. And that should be an expectation of the community. People should not be putting their monies in places where there is no standard met. But this is all going to be an education process, and I think the BLOC is a very good step in helping people understand what this is. But like I said, this is potentially a little bit controversial. So Patrick, you can definitely jump in.
So I agree totally with what James said. So I will field a little bit on the cost side that if you're going to become a registered company, generally you can do so for less than $1,000 in the US. Of course, that's going to vary with different countries and nations. And then time-wise, the commitment is probably 3 to 6 months to get everything in line. However, as far as ROI or return on investment, I would say that by following the BLOC guidelines, you are going to be more compliant than anyone else of your peers in this space. Whereas not being compliant, what's the ROI on a regulator shutting you down just like that, right? So having the best protection you can for your business by being the most compliant is priceless, whereas without it, you're just walking a very high risk index.
I'd like to add that a lot of it is transparency, and transparency defeats corruption. And also investors, especially in times where the people don't want to take on a lot of risk, right? When they're a little bit more tight on the purse strings, then by providing them with this extra transparency, you're reducing the investment risk for them, and they're probably more likely to want to purchase a commodity or an investment with your project.
I'll just add real quick. Again, right now the BLOC is I'm about to say right now. We don't have any plans to go anything different. The BLOC is a volunteer organization, so there's no cost for anyone to come in. We don't charge people to do our audit. We don't charge people for our onboarding process. This is all purely our volunteer time to be able to make sure that this organization, and again, if you're going to be a BLOC member, we hope that you will help continue this and add to the resources so that we can provide even more to the community in terms of what we can, with our time. But so there is no cost in terms of and it's all 100% ROI by applying to BLOC. I just want to throw that out there real quick. So we can move on to the next one if there's nothing else. I'm assuming I'm not muted this time, right? Okay,
you're good, JT.
Okay.
I don't think you would have kept us all quiet. I just want to quickly say that's monkey around Classy's neck, and that is a living dog that's just asleep. So don't freak out.
Yes, every BLOC meeting, monkey joins us. Next question is from, I believe, Tiara. What if the cops on the beat won't go after the bad actors, but instead target the legitimate projects in the space, kind of like what we're seeing now?
Yeah, so that's a great question and a fair question, right? So part of what we're doing with the BLOC is we're also providing people just like Fred and John Deedon and the attorneys out there who are looking for a structure to find what a good regulatory environment might look like for projects. We're giving them a point of reference from which they can go and approach legal issues to defend the good clients and potentially show why a bad client would fail this standard. So as far as whether or not the cops on the block go after the bad actors, we stand a much better chance of getting them to go after the bad actors if we provide them the most information possible. So when we do an audit and we verify their ID and we verify the companies that they're a part of, we're able to basically have the maximum amount of potential accountability for that project, as opposed to, if the cops have to do all the work, they're probably not going to do it themselves, and they don't necessarily understand it. And it's also a international problem. So we're providing them a point of contact through which they may be able to actually solve a case as opposed to chase their tail.
Gotcha.
And I would add to that, Tiara, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, that I like how, at first your question, what if? And I was like, there's no what if. They're definitely not going after the bad actors. But then, as you mentioned at the very beginning, kind of like what we're seeing now is exactly the right way to think about it. And that's the point of the BLOC and any standard setting organization is, we want to get to a point where our standards are so high and good and industry specific that you can look at a project and say, would this person, whether they tried to become a member or not, would they meet the standards of the BLOC? And if they wouldn't, and if they don't have their own information out there, that would be the kind of information we look at. Then the individual can say, all right, I'm a little worried about this project. And the second option, and it's an option that, the BLOC hopes to do going down the road, is kind of similar to a lawsuit my crypto firm HODL Law were doing against the SEC with Ethereum. It's that if nobody's going to tell us the answer, or no one's going to do anything else, if the cops on the beat won't go after the bad actors, then we'll just do it ourselves. And, it might work, it might not, but we're not going to sit back and not try. And so that's something that, I'm really excited on the legal side to be a part of here on the BLOC.
You're muted again, JT.
Trying so hard just not to cough in everyone's ear. But yeah, I was going to say, Duncan, I know you've got a little bit of a lag. Is there anything you wanted to jump in on?
Nothing that had already been said, so all good.
Okay, just want to make sure. I know that you're getting a little bit of a delay, so just feel free to jump in at any point. Let's next question we have here is, let me mark off Tiara. Got from Dale. Patrick said BLOC is preparing to meet the request of Oversight Lawmakers because all these BLOC members are from different countries. How does that protect BLOC?
So it's not necessarily that it protects BLOC, it's that it empowers those lawmakers and empowers the good actors out there in the cryptocurrency community. So essentially what we've done with Ripple and the amicus briefing through Reaper and on, kind of on behalf of the entirety of the XRPL, that's what the BLOC can do in different legal cases out there, is we can submit an amicus position in which we give a position or opinion based on our own standards of, did this company do the right thing by their consumer, or did they violate what would be otherwise a best practice?
Definitely. And ideally, we'll be able to speak to these regulatory bodies from government side and help them define what their regulations are to help protect the community. I think the BLOC doesn't need protection. I think it stands on its own merit, its own four legs. It's we've built this to be as stringent as possible. It's why it's taken so long to launch. It's more about how do we protect the ecosystem and the communities. That's really the question. And I believe it is by working with these government bodies, if possible, if they will listen. It's I think we're all seeing that that's going to be a very difficult task.
Yeah. But nonetheless, we're gonna try. So let me hide that one. We'll move on. Next one is by Cam Cameron. Hi guys, big fan of all your projects. Was wondering if Rippletinz is part of the BLOC, or is he going to be? He does a great job for the whole XRPL. Love all the work he does.
So Rippletinz, if anyone doesn't know, that's the elephant butt on Twitter. He is a bit of a cop on the beat for the XRPL, and he does a fantastic job on so many different projects. I don't think we've approached him, and I don't see any reason why, if he's interested, that he wouldn't be able to join BLOC. I know he doesn't have a project, so he might sit as an advisor to BLOC. But yeah, he definitely does some great work.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
on that note, sorry, Josh. On that note, I'd just like to say, I don't see any problem if he were to be interested to come in. At the same time, I do see him facilitating a much needed other role, which is he's a very strong character, strong-willed, capable of defending himself and fighting. He's capable of engaging what he believes through his evidence to be potential rugs. That's not really what BLOC does. We don't take an offensive attack on anything. We're here as something to support those who want to learn, want to do better, are willing to partake in best practices and things like that. So he does serve the community, in my opinion, but in a completely different way.
Yeah, he's on the reactive side of things, right? So he comes in after things go to heck. Is usually when he comes in. What we're trying to do is come in at the proactive side.
Yep.
I will speak to his defense on that. Sometimes he's very proactive, and he finds these rugs before they even occur based on previous history. So he definitely isn't only reactive. But like, I think it's a good point that you guys are making, that he probably serves a better service not being in BLOC in a sense, right? Like,
and I do agree with everything that's been said, but I'd also point out that even though he serves that purpose and he sometimes sees those rugs before they happen, he has yet to prevent any rugs, which it's good that someone is able to expose them. But if
I disagree, Patrick. He definitely has. He's done it, like I just said, on the basis of a rug has occurred already. And he's tracked these wallets of these individuals who've created new tokens. And he's literally nipped them in the bud before they even launched, like before they even went public. He was like, have a look at this. This is what they've done in the past. Yeah, he's really cool like that. And he stays with his finger on the pulse. But it's a great question, Cam. Good on you, mate. This is a good conversation.
As a security officer, and even before joining the BLOC, I already had an open line of communication with Rippletinz. So that is not, I'm sure if I needed to reach out with him, then it should not be an issue.
Yep. Oh, sorry. Anything else, Josh? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's it.
Okay. I wanted to share this picture. We've been looking for metaphors of, like, as we've tried to figure out what the BLOC is and what it's going to be. I've come up with two that I just wanted to share with the community real quick. So that was a good question to do it on. The BLOC is a light in the space. Now, good actors are going to come towards the light, and they're going to be a part of BLOC. We're going to see projects that are going to adhere, that may not get projects that do not get BLOC approval may still aspire to all the different standards and code of conduct and everything else, but they may not be a BLOC approved project because of a number of different reasons. And there actually is, we will get into a bit of the process. I did see someone's question about the process for onboarding. We can definitely cover that. But at the end, there is a vote, and it is up to the board and in terms of a final vote. Now, anyone that has not, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but anyone that has undergone a vote, usually if they get through all the rest of the process, it's usually no problem in terms of the vote. But that vote is a last chance to understand, like, is there anything wrong here? So for projects, the second analogy that I've come up with is that in the landscape of the blockchain space, the BLOC stands as an oasis. Now, everyone wants to come in, everyone wants water, everyone wants to feel safe, and all the animals will gather, right? But it is also, there's a fortress around this oasis, and it takes a lot to get in, and you got to abide by the rules, or you will not be there afterwards. So I feel like those are two metaphors that I've tried to seek. I'm always seeking for others, but I just wanted to take a quick second to share those.
And actually that's a perfect time for me to talk a little bit about our logo. So everyone that has known me for a minute knows that I'm very much into esoterics, and as I think JT puts it very well, with us being the lighthouse of the blockchain, but also what we have here is the scales of not necessarily justice, but these are actually the scales of the afterlife of life and death, which is a little bit of a nod to the Reaper. And in Egyptian lore, Thoth, the god of knowledge, and Mot, the would take you to Osiris, and they'd pull out your heart. And they'd put your heart on a scale, and Mot would put a feather on the other end, and they would measure your heart to see if your heart was lighter than a feather. And so that is the symbolism here, is we are pulling out our hearts, we are putting them on display as projects, we are making ourselves vulnerable, and we are determining whether other projects are innocent and transparent enough that they are indeed a heart lighter than a feather, or if there are things that would weigh their hearts down and they are not necessarily true to continue into what would be considered, you know, the good afterlife that you would see in ancient times. So that is the symbology here.
Cool. Thanks for that, Patrick. Anyone else before we move on to the next question? I'm not muted. Okay, good. There's just silence. All right. I'll move on to the next one, and we'll get back to the other view here. How can holders of BLOC member projects best help BLOC?
I think we touched on this earlier. Right now, it's awareness. It's other tokens that you hold, like Patrick said, asking those developers and project leads if they are interested in BLOC or if they would comply to the BLOC standard. But yeah, just ensuring that you're liking us on social media, sharing posts, asking questions, being part of events like this. This is very valuable. So thank you for being here, Crypto Gold Bot, and hopefully you're not an actual bot. But thank you for being here. And this is exactly what we're requesting people to do, is to be present and be with us.
Yep. Just want to throw in there real quick, other content creators, the people that you follow on YouTube, you know, part of that awareness is other people that are in the space need to hear about BLOC, and they need to, it'll be great if other content creators, you know, we're asking other, you know, projects, you know, hey, you know, are you BLOC certified? Have you heard of BLOC? You know, all those great questions. So just want to throw that out there again.
Right, and I just wanted to say real quick, as much as I appreciate all the support from the community and everything, I want you guys to know that whether you guys are helping to promote BLOC or doing anything to support us, the mission and intent of BLOC is to support you as people in the space. We're not creating this to request your help on anything. Although your help is greatly appreciated, we're just creating infrastructure so that you're better off in the long run.
All right. We'll move on here. Next one is from Toastman Tech. How can we, as retail digital asset holders, contribute to BLOC? I will say that we, at different times, might be looking for volunteers to help out with different things. We are, again, a volunteer organization. While the volunteers may not be, you know, BLOC approved, they are volunteers and can help with different things to BLOC. So I'll just throw that out there real quick.
Right, and on that, I'll just throw in that any one of you who feels like writing a page or two article on something, you can do that, submit it to us. We can proof it, we can publish it if we find that to be in agreement with us. So we can broadcast for you, of course, with your credits. And if we agree with your stances on things, then you know, you get a bit of a platform there, and we also get content to push. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, and I'd also add that maybe there's a lot of ways you can help that we're not even aware of. So just reach out. I mean, that's the whole point of the project that we're trying to do here, is that, you know, it's not like just because you're a member, that means only the members know everything there is to know. So if you got a great idea, we'd love all types of contributions.
Just make sure if you go to the contact form for a general inquiry, that's where you can, if you have anything you want to contribute, we'd be happy for your inquiry. So, oops. All right. keep clicking on the wrong thing here. All right, Steve, would all projects that go up for a vote for venture with Treasury have to be a member of the block? Duncan, great question for yourself.
Well, thank you very much, Steve, for the question. On the venture platform that is in Treasury are launching, actually going this coming Tuesday. You've kind of got parts of it right, but sort of the wrong way around. The way venture is designed to slot in is in the early stages of a project. So it's a project that hasn't launched. It might be an established business coming to the blockchain, coming from another blockchain over to the XRPL, because with Treasury's venture, it is XRPL specific as opposed to block, which is blockchain agnostic. Access would be that for those young and not yet established projects, they don't have to come through venture first and do the venture voting rounds, benefit from the mentorship that us as a project, the spotlight on the funding and the rewards package of products and services. And only really when a project has reached 90 days in the space, so 90 days of trading, 90 days of operating as a project, are you then eligible to actually join BLOC. So you have a choice. You could do nothing, run your project for the first 90 days, and bang on 90 days or 91st day, you can apply for BLOC. Or you could choose to utilize the venture platform specifically designed for those younger projects.
Gotcha. Well, you're breaking up just a little there, but I think we got most of it. Please, if you let us know if you got that question answered or if there's any other follow-ups towards the end there. But thank you.
And on that note, what he's saying there is, if anybody didn't quite catch that, is venture isn't required, but because you have to be in the space for 90 days, you don't have access to BLOC and best practices in a lot of cases. Projects and people can reach out to us for help, but they can't apply to join BLOC. So venture is available, and sort of like a prelude to BLOC, it would assist you in a lot of knowledge and best practices and prevent you from making some of the common mistakes, but it's not required.
Yes, and I'll also add, just for Duncan, because I know it's probably itching him right now, that this is just for the XRPL for venture specifically. So it doesn't support other blockchains yet that I'm aware of. But you can correct me on that, Duncan, if I'm wrong.
And I just want to add that we encourage all new projects launching to go out and be a part of venture. But even if you do or don't, our website does have our constitution, our bylaws, our values, our code of conduct all published. So we encourage any project out there that's looking for a framework to go and review those and align yourself with those.
Yep, absolutely. Believe, is this the next one? Nope, that is Steve again. Have to be a member of BLOC. Let me get rid of that one. And we'll go to, again, Crypto Goldbot, who asks, will you disclose projects that are rejected and why?
So we do not disclose them. The reason being is because we are not there to harm those projects and we want them to come back. We also don't want to discourage them from applying to the block. If we were disclosing projects that failed to meet the standards, that would become kind of dramatic, and it would look as if we were attempting to hurt that project, and that is not our intention whatsoever.
And I think that's really what Patrick said, is we're here to try and lift up the standard. So even if a project fails, we are giving them the tools they need to bring their standard up. So we don't want to just say you're rejected forever. We're going to say you are very welcome back, but you need to do X, Y, Z first. So that is another way that we can help promote this standard in the ecosystem.
Yep. Now there is a 90-day waiting period for projects to reapply. We do give that time so that, there's no rush, the space is ever developing. Something may even change for a project during that time. You never know. But we do need to get to other like that just keeps us from having to, from someone coming back to us and not really taking care of what they need to, and gives them the time to take care of it at the same time. So, let me, there it is,
Oh, you
guys.
did it.
I did it.
That's the first one.
I know. I was waiting for it.
I tried so hard.
If you guys don't know, JT used to just say do a lot, and he is like never says it anymore. Very impressive, JT.
All these guys give you a hard time, but yes, I'll I'm working on it. So from Brandon, Planadin, I think I got that right. Will the reasons a project fails to meet the requirements be made public? And I think we just answered that, so I'm gonna skip over that. If you have any more specific questions, please put them please re-ask them, and I'll get to them. Let me go back to Dale here. Has Hugo from Flare Network been approached to become BLOC compliant? And I will just say real quick, I don't think any of us have reached out because we have not launched yet. A lot of people, even though we have not launched, have approached us, and we've done as many as we can while trying to create, put the wheels on the car as it's driving, so to speak. But I don't think have any of y'all reached out to other projects and invited them?
So I have talked to Hugo, but not specifically about the BLOC. I think he, at this time, still needs to focus on launching Flare, and I don't mean that in jest. I just mean that he's got quite a lot on his plate. So I would probably wait till after he has officially launched Flare and then been out for 90 days before we would approach him.
So some of us have reached out to other projects. I'm just going to quickly zoom past Patrick's dig. But I agree with you, Patrick, by the way. I'll just say that for the record. But there are some other projects which are already lined up for onboarding. So I don't know if we should publicly talk about them or not. I'm not so sure. But there are some very good projects that are just in the bays right now.
Yeah. But I don't know, Josh, if that was a question or if you're just trying to get the camera to focus.
My camera's wigging. I'm going all fuzzy here. I'm like Bigfoot. Okay. There we go. There we go. Now I'm clear.
Now it's over to Patrick. Oh, or sorry, to Duncan. It's clearing up though. All right. Next question is from Rosemary. Can you foresee a day when or if a project doesn't pass approval for BLOC membership that it won't get any traction at all?
Yeah, I'll jump in for a second, guys. That's not what we would want. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of different projects that we haven't been able to fathom that could come to the space. A good case on that would be the Reaper project itself. When it came into the space, even people like David Schwartz were saying a project should never exist and not be black hole. So fundamentally, we're just looking at, we don't know every situation, and we're not security guards or anything. We're just trying to help projects prevent major mistakes themselves, and to have access to resources they wouldn't have, and a bit more consumer protection and security all along those lines, but not trying to destroy anybody else's hard work or effort. Good projects will always make it, whether they talk to BLOC or not, because they won't give up. They'll work hard, they'll create, and they'll build. And anybody can do that. So I don't want anybody to think that BLOC is here trying to take over anything. I mean, we have almost a year of debate over all of these topics. So it's taught us a lot on perspective.
Yep.
I would like to.
Yeah, I would add.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Josh.
I was just going to say it lowers risk, right? A BLOC membership lowers risk. So there's, you've got people that are speculators, you got people that are investors, you got different types of people. Of course, blockchain technology can be used for anything from flyers and receipts, pamphlets to deeds, titles, etc. Right? So if someone is in the BLOC, that once the word gets out there more, that there's a certain amount, like there's a bar there, and so it shows that they've gone through a certain amount of work and due diligence, and that's less risk.
Oh, you had said exactly what I was about to say. Good job. I would add, thinking about it this way, Rosemary, which you did at the end of your question, any traction at all. And the point there being, we do hope as the block moves forward and everybody can see how beneficial it is, that they do think it's very important to get that seal of meeting the auditing standards, meeting the onboarding standards, the project standards, and that is a significant deal. But it's not going to kill any project that doesn't have it. And before I really started doing a lot of crypto legal work, I would do a lot of medical malpractice work, and there's standard setting organizations there. There's standard setting organizations in every area of industry. And so, some hospitals, there are gold standard accreditation organizations, and all the hospitals want to get that gold standard, but there are a lot of hospitals that are still good and are fine, and they either don't want to. I mean, we don't charge anybody. This is not a money making scheme at BLOC, but some of those other organizations are, and so you've got some good hospitals that don't want to be charged that much, or they can't go through that process for whatever reason, but are still good. So, we do hope it means something and is meaningful, that, somebody might say, oh, I wonder if whether they're a member or not, I wonder if they would meet the BLOC standards. But, we don't want to ever say that BLOC's a be all end all, absolutely.
Yeah, I will say that, again, it takes 90 days before anyone can even apply to BLOC. So they should have some time in the field already. Now, if we become such a behemoth and we've done a good job, and if we actually get to that point to where we're in a scenario where if someone doesn't get BLOC approval after third, and that raises some eyebrows, I think we've done something good there, hopefully, in that space. So, but yeah, just my thoughts. Anyone else on this before we move on? Nope, I'm seeing shaking heads. All right. And rolling eyes from James. All right. So we'll move on to Curly.
I'm not rolling my eyes. Sorry, guys.
I'm just giving it
I'm going back between the chats, and I'm just really
okay.
enjoying the chats. It's good.
Gotcha.
That's when I'm laughing at like spots where I shouldn't be laughing. I'm usually laughing at someone in the chat.
Okay, you're good. So from Curly Bill, is the plan for all Ascension hard slots to be members of BLOC?
Yeah, so I take it that question's for me. So for Ascension, and to be clear, Ascension is not a BLOC product. Ascension is still a Reaper Financial product. But for Reaper Financial, offering basically a basket of tokens that have been highly vetted, that are worthy of progressing by being purchased and distributed far and wide to holders of Ascension. We want the highest standard possible. So we know that those projects that are hard slotted and being purchased and distributed are worth owning. So we are going to be adapting that to the BLOC standard, and projects that are BLOC approved will have the opportunity to be hard slotted, provided they also have a dedicated Reaper wallet that is meant for reaping their own project. So that's kind of a way for us to improve the quality of the Ascension product.
Yep. Awesome. I can't wait to see what other projects show up and may qualify later for that. And Reaper is just and Patrick is one of the first to use the BLOC standards in such a way, just as whenever I've talked before about how Schmeckles has used Reaper for, and conducting their own vote and doing their own thing, I'm hoping and really anxious to see, will exchanges be using the BLOC for, some kind of, early indicator of a project. How will the space take to us is one of my questions I have, and that's, no one can answer that here because I guess we're just going to see.
I can say the River Styx will use the BLOC as a standard.
Oh, okay. Well, there you have some of that, but we'll see about the rest of the space.
Patrick, do you want to drop any other bombs? That's insane. Can we just take a second to breathe that in? That's insane. So you're saying the River of Styx is only going to be for BLOC compliant projects?
So the BLOC compliant projects will be the first projects automatically hosted on the River Styx. Yes.
Wow. There you go. That's insane. That's massive. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Reaper.
Awesome. And we'll see whenever that happens. I can't wait for the Styx to drop. Another question from Dale. Any anticipated time frame for BLOC to go from chasing projects to being chased by projects? And yeah.
Simple answer, I think, to that is launch, right? So now we're launched. I think we're going to see an uptake of projects coming. We didn't exist prior to today in the public eye, even though a lot of people caught on to what we were doing, and there were little breadcrumbs around. And like we said, there's already there's already projects in the wings waiting to be onboarded. So it's already happening, Dale. Thank you.
Right. And to that, Dale, I would say that already occurred about 4 months ago, roughly, where we started having more projects coming around and showing interest in what we were ready to facilitate due to building the actual infrastructure of BLOC.
Duncan, you have anything from the onboarding side of things? Do you have a number for us in terms of how many are waiting to get through the door?
No, I'm all good.
Okay. All right. Well, we're apparently not going to share that number at this time, but we do. I know there are at least. I'm gonna say it's over 5. I'm pretty sure it's over 5 that we have at least applications for. I think, if I remember correctly. But so I want to give them, like, there's already people that are interested, so it's a good thing. But Dale, any? Oh, maybe.
The only thing I would say is that we are going to have to deal with projects on a first come, first served basis. It's the only fair way for us to be able to create a kind of a queue system with regards to onboarding. And that is not something I think we make clear on the website, but it's something that people would probably is what we're going to do. And it's because, like you've all said, we've had projects approach us without it being officially launched yet. So we anticipate there being, an exponentially higher uptake now that it's all made official.
And just to speak to onboarding a little bit further, so prior to stepping into the role of ethical officer, I was actually part of Duncan's team as onboarding. And part of that process really requires response and a fast response time from those projects that are onboarding. So that may be what causes you to fall back to the end of the queue. So projects that are looking to onboard, we just request that you take this seriously. If there is a request for information or something of those lines, a question, anything along those lines, that you do respond as fast as possible, just because there is a backlog already and we've literally just launched. So. And I guess I will say as well is if there is a significant amount of need for people to support Duncan, I will actually be supporting Duncan in his role, but we are definitely looking for more volunteers. So if you're interested in helping with onboarding, please come forward.
Yeah, any projects that want to that are going to be one of those ones that get in early, by the way, you may be put to work pretty early in terms of needing your assistance and helping move that forward. So Josh, did you have something?
I just want to say that the projects that are here had to go through things just like everybody else is going to. So for instance, I had to go through the same work, and I'm not going to be auditing myself. The audit will be done impartially by most likely Patrick, and I'll be put to the same metrics as anyone else, and I would expect no less. And I don't expect preferential treatment, and I don't think anybody here does.
Yep. And there may be some bigger names that
I just wanted to give a shout out in the chat, and I'm really sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, Bude. She's kind of hit the nail on the head with what we're trying to do. She said, she works in the hospice industry, and they've got an accrediting body that, I'm familiar with, because I've interacted with hospice providers in cases before. And she mentioned, hey, we just hit all our standards. It's a big deal in our industry, and I understand it. And that really summarizes well what we're trying to do BLOC-wise, where, not everybody knows what, there it is. Not everybody knows what CHAP is outside of the hospice industry, but, anybody inside of it is like, wow, that's a big deal. You got zero deficiencies. So, we want, maybe hopefully in the, well, not hopefully, but in the beginning, someone's like, they're a member of BLOC. What does that mean? To, as time goes on, wow, they hit all the standards of BLOC. That's a big deal. And so, that really summarized it well. Thanks for putting that comment in there.
I think we lost Josh, but hopefully he'll be back soon. Next question is from Gotta Be. And for an oversight committee that will be overseeing my consumer rights, where does your moral guidelines or moral compass come from? What gives you the conviction to vote a certain way?
So that's a good question. So I think part of the key to that question is that each and every member and board member has a different moral and ethical foundation, right? But we do have a unifying set of values for the BLOC itself, which are very important to everybody here. For myself, I come from a mixture of libertarian, biblical, and military ethics and values for my background. And I don't know if anyone else wants to share their ethical foundations, but it's very diverse.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think another point to this is all of us here are subject matter experts, and that sort of gives us this position of we've been trialed and tested in this industry, in this ecosystem. A lot of us are previously investors, both in the classic finance system as well as in the arising blockchain and cryptocurrency system. So there are a lot of things that we've seen through our experience that we want to help and utilize to support everyone else moving forward. So my background personally, I'm university educated, grew up in the Catholic schoolboys system, and I studied mental health and psychology. Have worked in corporations like government, for example. I've worked in the defense force, not as a defense personnel, but as a advisor and consultant and contractor to them. So that's where a lot of my standards come from. I am probably on the very stringent side of ethical opinion, and that's probably why I do stand in this ethical officer role. But yeah, that's my background.
Who else wants to go? I'll go.
What I really like about the question is that what I think we as BLOC and any organization has to keep in mind is the cautionary tale of, you can always become the bad guy over time. And so when does an organization do that? Well, it's when everybody loses sight of the mission, the principles, the founding documents. And again, you look at our Constitution, look at our bylaws. That's how you find what's written down that this organization is abiding by. But, the point is that a lot of good things start out and go bad at some point. And, we're always going to be professing, our adherence to our guidelines, but that all comes down to what we do as a community, what the members do, and that we really stick true to our goals. And it's incumbent upon anyone who, if they see our conviction slipping or the BLOC's conviction slipping, is to call it out and say, this isn't what you guys started out for. And, again, it goes back to other bodies that have done the same. There's a lot of accrediting bodies out there that started out great, and then now it all became a money thing. I won't name anything, but there's like a ranking system out there in the US that was good for trying to come up with these legitimate rankings or how to rank certain entities, and then not quickly, but over a decade or so became a situation where you pay us enough money, we'll tell you how to get the right ranking. And so it's very important for any organization to keep that in mind. Great question.
Yep. I will say that again, to Fred's point, our bylaws, we've crafted them in such a way that, again, this is the board that you see here who you're talking to. We already have 2 projects, Additions and Astrals on X, that are a part of the block. And what's great about the block is that if the board starts to go awry, that the block General Assembly, the projects that have met and passed the block audits and are a part of the block as projects, or in some cases very rare individuals, they will have the ability to call a block vote to be able to change a decision that the board has made. But this is an organization made up of people. We are focused, and our bylaws promote continuous improvement even when there is some kind of failure. So we're trying to make sure we don't fail, but if we're going to fail, we're going to fail fast and figure out what in the world we're going to do to improve. So we are here to help and set good standards, and but if the how do I say this? The blockchain space is developing in such a different way and so quickly that what was ground under our feet previously may shift, and we need to figure out what are good standards in the context we're in then. So just wanted to throw that out there. Anybody else?
Yeah. So on that, I would say that forward-facing people don't get at this time, and maybe at some time in the future, but currently not, the insight or luxury into the incredibly intense, in-depth conversations that we have amongst the board to come to conclusions. And our most scary outcomes are when everybody's in consensus, kind of straight off the bat. A lot of us will immediately go into devil's advocate mode and start troubleshooting, because we like to field the full array of possibilities on things that we approach to come to our conclusions. We do have a really strong internal debate, which requires a mutual respect and the ability to just kind of correct somebody straight out if they think that they're wrong. And we've seen that already in this with some things that Patrick and Schmeckles have said, and there's a very powerful mutual respect there, and the ability to not have such a strong ego that you can't admit that, okay, yeah, I was a little bit wrong there, that kind of stuff. The consensus of opinion that comes from a block vote isn't as simple as a bunch of people randomly without context voting a certain way. There is a vote and a reason why that vote occurred from that person and what their opinion is on it. And then there's this really awesome kind of like back and forth until we find the best solution we possibly can as a cohesive unit.
I wanted to say, everyone, I'm glad I was able to jump on. I know I was late, but I got to leave early. It was a little crazy at the Rispoli house this time period, but I'm glad I got to see everyone's questions, help out where I could, and I'm very excited to see where we go from here.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Fred, for joining. Feel free to drop off. And we have got about 17 more questions, but they keep coming. We might have to set a drop-off point. It's great to see everyone's excitement and about what's going on here, though. But we'll see you later, Fred.
Thank you, Fred.
Awesome. Next question is from Dale. What about an NFT project without a token? Can it become block compliant? If so, will there be an advantage for the NFT project to be block compliant?
It's a very great question, and yes, that it's not something that we've discussed at length, but I do not see why not. There are a lot of other things besides review of a token specifically that we can do as part of onboarding and reviewing an NFT project. NFT projects are very diverse as well. So there's a lot of projects that choose not to dox. So it would have to be a decision made by that NFT project to protect their community in a sense. So yeah, it's a great question, Dale, and I don't see why not. The advantage of why that NFT project would come to BLOC is the same advantage that any other project would have coming to BLOC. They would have a lot of insight from the team, from the existing members, as well as they'd be providing the purchasers of their NFT with some form of confidence. A lot of us have a lot of experience with NFTs, and we could definitely help new starter projects in exploring that. So yeah, I would love to see some NFT projects apply.
Right. And I'll just throw in an example real quickly. Recently, within the last couple months, a project came to me and said he was thinking of releasing a line. I said, let's do a Zoom call. Let's just talk about this. Let's see what you want to do and those kinds of things. Before this person knew, and I don't want to dox him, his project will be coming out and it's going to have a lot of backing and different things like that. But he came to me, and before he knew it, he was in a Zoom call with 6 project leads, and we all got together and brainstormed and helped him to get right on board with best practices. Now he's going to go through venture, he's going to do all kinds of stuff, and now he knows a lot more than what he did. His odds of success just went through the roof, and that's the truth of it, just so that there's not quite as many mistakes.
Sorry, William. JT, is there any way you can delete what's popping up in the chat, or is YouTube?
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, whatever.
What's that?
Just go have a look, mate. I'm not going to call it out on
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like Gotta Be said, it's gone downhill quickly.
Oh my gosh. What the?
Okay.
All right. Yeah, that's. I think I got it. Let me know if I didn't.
Yeah, no, it said you blocked it. So.
Okay. Woo. All right. That's what we get for having attention on us for too long, I guess. All right. Well, besides that, there's I wanted to just say real quick that we already have a block approved NFT project, and I believe Astral's on X, as well as because they're only going to be doing NFTs, as well as
right.
Joshua Qualley.
As well as additions, right?
Yeah, additions.
That just completely missed my mind because they were all IOU projects. My apologies. Yeah.
So I want to make sure that they get called out and to say that, like, but generally speaking, these projects are going to need. They're not going to be, like Josh said, onesies, twosies. It's going to be a project that is going to be doing something with NFTs that is going to be consistent and wanting to drive the space forward. So just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
Thank you, JT. Yep, spot on.
Next question is from Rosemary. What does and by the way, thanks for putting question in the colon right there. It just helps so much easier to make sure what the question is. What does the onboarding intake process look like for projects looking for block approval? Do they fill out a form on the website? What is the initial information required? And I'll hand that question over to Duncan because he is onboarding, and I will go ahead and share the screen about where you should start. Go ahead, Duncan.
Yeah. So onboarding, as opposed to designed to be a slightly more informal process, candidate project wanting to join BLOC, getting to know BLOC better, and myself as well. And the whole purpose of it really is to identify initial ability and that project for joining BLOC. Ordinarily, what would happen is you would fill out the form that we've got on. That's a self-assessment form, isn't it? Yeah. So initially, what you would do is you would contact us via the contact form that is available on the website, and the one you might want to show is this. JT, clarify, because I can't see the screen. If you can scroll down.
Oh, the join BLOC screen. So this is the onboarding process.
And this is the self-assessment one, is it?
Yeah. So the self-assessment, just because we've changed up the process a little bit.
Yeah,
so the self-assessment will feed into the onboarding. So if you're a new project, you want to start at the self-assessment form to see if you meet those requirements. Go ahead.
That's it. And then really through the onboarding officer, so myself at that present, we will make sure that you have access to the Constitution, the Code of Conduct, the bylaws, because they're the 3 key documents that underpin the whole organization. And they're the ones that you're absolutely going to need to be able to abide by and eligible to join BLOC. Once you receive those and we run through the initial kind of exchanges between the project and myself to clarify any issues that they may have, we will jump on a Zoom call where we have the opportunity to meet each other face to face. And following that, you then get invited to fill out the self-assessment form, which then leads into the actual audit questionnaire. And so the audit questionnaire, I believe, unless we've changed the model, is still password locked. So the purpose of that is that people can't just go into the website and immediately jump onto the self-assessment. They have to go through the audit process. And the reason for that is that the auditing process is a very time-consuming and technical job that Josh Crawley does. So we do the onboarding first, and only when we've run through that process do they get access to the audit questionnaire form that they need to complete. And then the process is handed over to the securities officer.
Yep. And then after the securities officer, we go into a vote, right?
So securities officer, sorry, I thought it was specifically the early onboarding process. But yeah, so security officer, Josh Qualley has already run through how the audit kind of works. But he will audit the questionnaire and audit the project and what they submitted. He may very well jump on a call with them, clarify certain pointers, ask additional questions. There is also a disclosure interview that he will carry out with the project lead for that project. Following all of that, he will then submit the results to the BLOC board. And following that, if they have been found to meet all the criteria, they will then be put to a vote and then onboarded.
Cool. And yeah, if you have any questions about the onboarding process, again, you just go to join BLOC on our page. You will have the form there for any project that wants to fill this out. If you do pass the self-assessment, that will feed into our onboarding email. So you'll be able to essentially, if you pass this, you've essentially applied through that process. If you want a visual, there is a download here of what that process looks like. This part needs to be updated. This is supposed to be using that self-assessment form, but you can go there. Let me just go back here real quick. And also, if you are interested and if you want to come prepared to the meeting for with Duncan, you can go download the Constitution, bylaws, and code of conduct and read them ahead of time. Projects that do their due diligence ahead of time will speed through the process. I'll tell you that much. Any other answers to that question, or any other things we want to cover, guys?
No, but for the sake of the video's timeline and people consuming all the information, can you scoop maybe 5 more choice questions, and we'll try to get answers on the really important questions?
I will try to. They're all really good. I'll try to pick them. And so if we're going to call it for the sake of time, I do apologize, everyone, but it has been a long live stream. And thank you all for sticking with us so long. Let me find a good... First, I just want to see is really quick. Is XR Doge a part of the BLOC? No, XR Doge is not currently part of the BLOC.
Yeah. So to expand on that a little bit, so XR Doge is a project with a troubled past, and they had a different ownership. And then the new project owners approached me for some assistance. So I've been advising them basically pro bono, just on how they can turn things around for that project and help fix their public relations, PR, and their image. And part of my advice for that was that they adhere to BLOC standards and the Constitution, even if they are currently, due to the acts of the former team, they would not pass the audit, and they would not, pass the BLOC standard quite yet, or not during the time that they started working with us. But they are doing their best to adhere to those standards so that in the future they can be a fully approved BLOC member.
And again, this is speaking to a comment that I made earlier, that even though there is a troubled past, that we're still happy to work with projects if they're going to do the right thing and stick to the regulations that we put forward and the standards we put forward. So even if you have had a like, is there a worse pass than XR Doge? I'm not too sure. Like, the fact that they're still moving forward is very, very impressive, and it's commendations to both Alex and Vicky as the devs there. So if they can now move forward, sticking to what we're setting for BLOC, then how excellent is that for all the XR Doge holders? They've gone through hell, and they can potentially come back. So yeah, they're a great use case as well for the BLOC, I believe.
They're welcome to still apply, and that's everyone is welcome to apply with where they're at. We'll see how they stand up to things, and I don't believe they've gone through our process yet. So I will just say that they are welcome to apply. I didn't mean to become a thing. I thought it was just going to be a real quick answer. So, but we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 essential questions I'd like to go through before we end up, guys. I've tried to narrow it down as best I can. One is, and we'll get through these. Also, if we could keep our answers more brief, we'll get through them quicker. Projects wish to move in the right direction and work towards being a BLOC member. Who should they reach out to? Is there a correct channel, or do they just reach out to any BLOC of the BLOC Council? And I would say they're welcome to use the contact in our inquiries, and we can try to hook them up with the right person. Every inquiry might be different.
Yep. So, and Duncan Glendinian from Treasury is our onboarding officer. So if they're ready to apply, that's the first person they're probably going to interface with. But if they do approach any one of us, we're going to be open to it, and we're just going to point you in the right direction, depending where you are in the process.
And also, just to add to that, as JT pointed out, the documents, we can see it on screen here, the Constitution, the bylaws, and the Code of Conduct. The projects that join need to already agree to abide by those documents. So any project, without even submitting a form with us, can download those documents, familiarize themselves with them, and abiding by the principles that are laid down within each of them. Because if they do that, their job to get into BLOC is going to be so much easier than having to go then find out which aspects of their project are not compliant. If they're adhering to including these documents, they will very most likely, they'll definitely be eligible for BLOC, and there's a higher likelihood that they're going to go straight through. So that's something that any project can do without even clicking a submission button and contacting us at all.
Okay, awesome. Let's go and let's get this one. Any regulation rules, conditions on freezing of assets by a project or owners and black holing?
So we don't specifically have rules on those. So as everyone knows, Reaper and Reaper's products are not black hole. We frown upon freezing, but that's not to say that there couldn't be a inventive new project that uses that in some manner that would be appropriate, as long as it was transparent. However, if we were to dig through and basically found that the project had been freezing customer funds in a way that seemed malicious, that would obviously fail the audit. Or if they were not black holed and they didn't have justification for that in their tokenomics, that would also fail the audit.
Cool. Moving on to the next one. There were several versions of this, but I cut it down to one. Will there be an intermittent check on projects to make sure they still adhere to council requirements?
Most definitely. This is something we actually tossed up and turned about for a while. And the way we thought about it and the final approach we've taken is almost similar to the way a corporation might drug test their employees. So it's sort of like, just be prepared to be audited at any time. There should be never a dull or down moment in your project's time where you are not standing by what you have signed up for with the BLOC. So it's just be prepared at all times, and an audit may come at any time. Another reason why is an ethics complaint may come through to myself or to one of the other members of BLOC, and that may be the trigger for an audit at a random time, random point in time.
And I just want to add there real quick that anyone who has an ethics complaint needs to be able to call out in our, you will be much more replied to, and you will be able to hunt down much more if we understand the situation, as well as exactly the bylaw, code of conduct, or part of the Constitution that they have violated. So please make sure that if you're filing an ethics complaint, that you understand what exactly our standards are, and you're not just complaining about something that, you know, is different. But if there is something we need to consider to add to increase our structure, we will definitely be open to listening to that as well. So I just know that there could potentially be a flood of complaints to you, James. I just want to make sure that like you get the right thing. So
Thank you, JT.
all right, but not about block projects. I don't please, we're not here again for the whole space. These are just block projects. So if you have a problem with Patrick or William or Duncan, yeah, please, those are the projects we need focused on, not everything else in the space. So
with that said, personally, I'm open to just chatting about any project. So if you want to come to me personally outside of BLOC, more than welcome to.
Yep, his Twitter should be in the description.
Right. And on that note, just kind of like Josh Qualley doesn't do his own security audit, complaints that would be against Schmeckles or James, who is on ethics, would go to Patrick. If he isn't there, then they would go to me. So just so you guys know.
Yep. They've again, all that's in our bylaws, and we tried to, if they find any gaps, we're always open to feedback and interested in that. If you want to give feedback about any of our structural elements, please do that through the general inquiry through the contact us form on the website. I will be reading those. Next is from Curly Bill. Rather than being in the US and them, is there a potential in the future for collaboration between other regulatory bodies in the crypto space?
So definitely, and what we do here is all about
It's us and them.
Yeah, us and them.
Us and them, sorry.
Yeah. So we're all about corroboration with other entities. So even if the SEC, even if Gary Gensler himself wanted to have a conversation, we would be more than happy to sit down with Gary and talk about the why, what, when, where, how. And, you know, we may have more or less influence than, you know, the SEC, but we're more than happy to have those discussions. We are going to be, you know, approaching different legislatures and county and state bodies throughout the U.S. to educate. And we do plan on approaching it lobbyists and politicians in certain manners from an educational angle as well.
Yep. All right. I'm sure that will spawn a ton more questions we can answer in another live AMA, but we'll see more when we get there. Next question is from Locked. If someone currently or doesn't have anything to contribute to BLOC, can he or she still volunteer just to sit in to learn? There's so much to learn from the experience of all you not to be involved. I'm not sure if you mean sitting in on our meetings or being around. We're definitely here to produce some educational content, so there's going to be that element to it. But I don't know. What do you all think? What do you
So not to our board meetings, but definitely we're going to be looking to do roundtables and things of the like of what we're doing now to invite the public into these conversations. And I just want to say your voice is always going to be heard. So if you ever have anything to say, we have that contact form on our website, and all of us are very approachable. But the board meetings have to remain closed for many reasons. But yeah, that they won't be open to the public.
Yeah.
Right. So we already have it documented. It's we have our board meetings and we try to get through important issues and kind of just discuss them out. But there are regularly scheduled events for the public to engage us through our infrastructure already.
Yep. We have we'll probably try to eventually create more to communicate better to the public in terms of our, what our calendar is, what those events are. But as the calendar develops, we may put out like a month at a time. We'll see how that develops. Right now, we tried to get everything stand up, and now we're here so we can onboard new projects. So let's get done with that one. We got two more left. 9 to 5. Freedom. Is there a preferred external security auditor and process? And that basically that goes to say, is someone outside of BLOC, or is it all done from within BLOC? Sorry if I was missed or discussed earlier.
So we do have some connections to third-party vendors as well as chain analysis to do a deeper dive into certain wallets if it comes to that, or if we believe that is necessary. For our purposes so far, the internal auditor in the XRPL has been very capable. We haven't really needed that, but it is available to us.
Right, and most people are in just the XRPL here, but for my experience with Zoj, most ecosystems have some kind of oversight or guardian body, like what BLOC is. I know for HBAR, we're verifying with Sentinel now, and with Algorand, we went through Tiny Man and the Algorand Foundation to get our stamps of approval, basically. But we will end up in time here probably linking up with many more as projects outside of our own reach start to become more of a common in BLOC. We'll probably be having some more of that.
Yep. And I think that's it for that. A last question for the night is, it's kind of a three-parter. It's from Joe or JRO. I understand the mission and vision of BLOC, but what does BLOC actually do? And I'm not quite done. Looking at the other parts. Is it purely auditing? And to further clarify, it says, I understand the mission and vision, but what do y'all actually do? Is it purely interviewing projects and giving a BLOC stamp of approval? And so go ahead.
So largely what we do is we build out the standards and best practices. We'll war game them or theorize on them until we found fault to the point that it is reduced to the most successful path of least resistance for projects. And in doing that, we're also able to create basically a guideline or a roadmap for projects to move forward and to grow with minimum risk. So we're reducing risk to the consumer as we build those standards.
Right, and for projects coming into BLOC, what they can expect is BLOC as a body is essentially an incredibly powerful, well-versed group of people with varying skill sets, and come together as something one would consider a think tank. In many cases, people may have an issue or want to create or deploy something, and we come together and we assist one another in these things. Like if Zoj wanted blockchain voting because Reaper has it and he's offered it, I could have that. I don't have any intent or need for it at this time, but the offers that have been made to me specifically through BLOC are more magnificent than one would expect. Like it's really good stuff. So what does that do for like an end user? How does that fulfill our mission or vision? It makes the projects that are within BLOC much more capable than those that are without BLOC, and that then translates into a better yield or result for end users.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that was the final question for the night. I definitely want to say thank you to everyone. And again, if you're watching this later, would love to hear from you. We really do. We've come together. It's been like was telling a coworker, he's like, you birthed a baby. It's like it's taken 9 months in terms of like the time it's taken. Of course, we haven't like done that, but this has been a huge undertaking to try to figure out what all these standards are, and it's going to continue to be. We're probably going to learn a lot from the different projects that we're onboarding. We already have, and that's helped to develop our standards for the ones that have and have not made it. But we're here to bring good actors together in the blockchain space and to help move forward and advance this technology, and to bring clarity ourselves as those who are developing on the blockchain. I speak not as myself, but for these projects. But I just want to say, as a content creator, I'm very thankful to be a part of this. I'm very thankful, and I hope and encourage other content creators to utilize BLOC and their standards, to get educated on it, to grow on them. And of course, if y'all have any feedback, whether you're in the public, whether you're a project, something we missed, something that is vital, something you think could help us, reach out. We are a volunteer organization, and we'll get back to everyone as soon as we can. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Any last thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I'll weigh in real quick. For anybody who didn't know, the website is bloc.foundation. You can also find it on Twitter at BLOC Oversight. It'll link you to the website. And just thanks a lot for attending, everybody. I'm really proud of the last near year of work that has went into this, and all of the people who aren't even present who contributed to it. So thank you.
Awesome. Anyone else?
I definitely concur with William. It's great that we had so many people here on our launch, had so many great questions, a lot of things that like usually if there's a question asked, someone else has also got that question. So thank you so much for asking those. I want to remind everyone, we are here for the ecosystem, for the community. So if you have any questions, concerns, anything, just get in contact with us. You can do it anonymously if you need to, but there's no monsters here, nothing scary. We're here to work with you, so we're very approachable. Please just drop a line. Yeah.
You won't get sued. Sorry, I had to. Like, so,
We're not
I'm
the
sure
SEC,
someone's
is that what you're
thinking
saying?
it. I'm sure someone's thinking it, right? Yeah. Duncan, Patrick.
Yeah, no, just to say, same as everyone else, thank you very much. It's meant a lot that people have turned out today. The questions you contributed have been really excellent one that's allowed us to dive in to what we're doing without just spending hours and hours reading off documents. So it's been all for that interaction. Appreciate it. And yeah, our door is open. It's the fruits of 9 months of hard work, but it's also effectively the start of the journey, or the journey that we and his input will make this stronger. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Duncan.
And I guess that leaves me. So I just want to say that I really appreciate all of the members of BLOC and the General Assembly for sharing in the vision. And when I first had this idea, way back, I wasn't sure that I'd have the buy-in, and I wasn't sure that people were going to spend their time working on this. And I didn't do this; they did this together. So I really, truly appreciate all of you, and I really hope that what we're building here and what we've designed is going to truly provide value and a service to this community. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Well, I'm JT, and these are the founders of BLOC, and we're out.